welcome to the Refugee Voices Scotland podcast. In this podcast, I talk to Dr Ahmad Subeh, a doctor from Syria who's taking part in the Refugee Doctors programme, which is funded by the Scottish Government. The Refugee Doctors programme in Scotland is unique in the UK. It supports medically trained and qualified refugees to achieve medical registration and in return to contribute their skills to NHS Scotland. Dr Subeh tells me about the Refugee Doctors programme, his experiences as a refugee in Glasgow, and I also run out of questions, and so Dr Subeh asks me some. Here's Dr Subeh. Refugee Voices Scotland. So I'm here in the Al Care Foundation shop in Victoria Road in Glasgow. Dr Ahmad Subeh, good morning.
Good morning.
I
guess it's afternoon anyway. It's afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're a refugee from Syria.
That's correct, yes.
What do you want to tell me about things just now and how things are?
Well, where
did you come from?
All right, I came from Syria and particularly Damascus, which is the capital. And unfortunately, the situation over there is still, I wouldn't say the same when I left. It's just getting worse and worse. And people over there are just being exhausted to the bone because of what's happening, what's taken place, and not to mention other areas in Syria which have faced much more destruction, much more worse situation, and I wouldn't say it's going on very well over there. Yeah, this is unfortunate.
And when did you come to Glasgow?
I came to Glasgow on October 2015. That was roughly around a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of Glasgow?
Oh, it's amazing. I love the people. I love. When I first came over here, I thought, oh, it's a small city. But when I went to other cities, oh, it's big. Yeah. I love especially the people, how they treat you and how they are open to everyone. They just they're lovely, you know. And you would go over any place in Glasgow and you feel you're welcome. No one will just show you that you look weird or you came from other parts or something like that. Not to mention it has really beautiful places to go to. The nature is amazing as well.
What's your favourite place to go to in Glasgow so far?
Well, Kelvin Grove Museum and the riverside.
Oh yeah,
yes.
Beautiful.
I love the Botanic Garden as well.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not from Glasgow,
Yeah.
actually. But
Well, you should go there. You should go there then.
So you're qualified as a doctor,
That's correct, yes.
a medical doctor.
Yes.
What are your plans for?
Well, for now, the Scottish Government have funded Bridges programs to do something called the Doctors Refugee Program. NHS Education was already on supporting doctors who came as refugees from other countries by giving them the fees for the IELTS exams and the fees for a training course for PLABs, which are the medical exams if you want to modify your degree from outside UK. And Bridges programs have looked into the situation and they've seen that the first obstacle for any doctor who came from outside is the language obstacle. And to be a doctor in the UK, you have to be on a certain degree of language, and that includes you passing the IELTS with a score of 7.5 at least. And so they have thought, how many doctors we've got over Scotland, and when they have made some calculations, they came up with 30 doctors who are qualified doctors in their countries but are waiting or trying to get their IELTS exam done, and then they will be just qualified as a doctor who graduated over here and start working in the GMC. So they thought, okay, the NHS education is paying for the exams, but who is preparing them just to go through the IELTS? And they have proposed for a project which organize all of these doctors in one place, give them a special training to pass that exam, and they managed to get the fundings from the Scottish Government lately last year, and they have started that. Now we're going as doctors to two colleges, one city of Glasgow, one Clyde College, and we're getting the training and hopefully we'll get there soon.
And what time scale is that then?
Well, we're looking at a time scale for 3 groups. It varies between the levels. So I'm on higher level at the moment. So the time scale for us is just roughly around 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, others might have longer time levels, but it depends on the funding as well.
And what do you look forward to doing then once you qualify? What's the next step after that?
The next step is I get my IELTS done, PLABs done, and then I'm registered with the GMC. Hopefully, I'm getting a training within Glasgow. I'm really keen to work in Glasgow and start my life as a doctor over here.
Okay. And a doctor's career is a hard work. It's hard work being a doctor.
Yes, that's correct. It's just you have to start from the beginning of your life, and you're never gonna actually end working ever.
All of your life. So it's a vocation, I guess. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
but it pays off. You're gonna get a really good amount of money.
That's great. That's good. Thinking about, do you have a family here?
Yes, I've got my wife
Okay.
over here.
How are your family getting on with the Glasgow scene and what's happening?
Well, last year I spent it alone in Glasgow, and unfortunately last year was too much raining, and I thought, oh, this place can never see the sun. But I told my wife, don't expect the best weather ever when you come over here. But when she came, that summer was amazing. And she was like, you are lying to me. Why were you doing that? And I was like, oh, come on. So she's enjoying, and for my wife, she found Glasgow very beautiful.
Well, that's great. Do you have children?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Yes.
Not yet. The one thing in Scotland, we will have weather,
Yes.
and it will change.
Well, yeah, it's a subject. Everyone bring this up whenever you ask anyone who came to Scotland, how do you think about the weather? I mean, it's the first question ever you would hear, and the first complaint ever you would hear as well.
It's a kind of British thing, you know. It's if you get
Yes.
stuck, if you meet someone in a social situation,
Yeah.
and you, what do I say? Hi, lovely day. You
Lovely
know,
day, yeah. It's just
always
like...
a weather thing.
I think, but maybe global warming is working just fine for us so far.
I think you're right, because I remember when I was young, we used to go skiing in Scotland every winter.
Yeah.
Every winter, every
Skiing?
Easter, skiing.
Oh.
Now, there's no skiing every winter now.
Well, that
Easter.
doesn't mean it's going good. It's just going bad, because like you need to have cold in winter and hot in summer, but that's not the situation
I think
over
we're
here.
just getting warmer in general.
Yes.
Yeah, which is maybe not a good thing, you're right.
Yeah.
But if we have nice summers, that's okay.
Yes.
That's okay. In terms of support then, you found there's quite a lot of support to get it back into your profession as a qualified doctor
Yes,
here, which is great.
Like very much support, yeah.
That's really good. And the refugee community in general, do you also, I don't really know much about this, but do you support each other in getting things done? And,
Yes, that's
yeah.
correct. And the lovely thing about Glasgow, it has too many communities. You just get lost among them. I mean, like, you don't know where to go. Every time you ask yourself a question, where do I get this thing from? And you'll find like 3 organizations, some place which can help you, guide you, and support you. In Glasgow in particular, I came across more than 20 organizations. See, like for care, for example, even though it's a charity organization which help people outside UK, we've got plenty of projects which help refugees over here. And the first thing I came to know Al Care Foundation from is they were supporting the asylum seekers, just getting their meals and stuff like that. And I came over here when I was like that. I was supported, and then I got my refugee status, and then I've got an opportunity to start working in a part-time job over here. That was great. So you would see, even if it's not like an organization designed for refugees, it will just give the support for them. It's lovely about Scotland and Glasgow in particular.
That's really good to know.
Yes.
Did you get was Refugee going when you arrived? Did you get
Yes,
your-
I mean, like, I didn't hear
Goodie
refugee
bag.
in exact same time when I came over here, but I've heard about it later on. And the thing is, you hear too many organizations, you don't have time. Even if you want some support, you don't have time to go to all of them. You just get dependent on 1 or 2, and that's yeah, that's really good.
So the problem might be a problem in finding the right organization because there are so many.
Well, but it's good to have these
have a
options
choice.
anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
like, you would know that all of these organizations are there, and they're keen to support at any level you want. And even if they can't support you in the thing you want, they will get you someone who can find you the right organization to do that, and it's very lovely.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. I think I've run out of questions. What question would you like me to ask you?
What do you exactly know about refugees?
Very little. The impetus for this was my daughter and I talking at Christmas time about how bad refugees are being represented in the British press,
Yes.
to ridiculous levels. And Jennifer said, my daughter said, look, why don't you make a podcast about this?
Yeah.
Why don't we start a podcast series and we do like one a month and we talk to different people?
That's lovely. The idea that I want to mention that,
Yeah.
you know, when a situation happens, as an unfortunate situation happens or takes place in a part of the world, and then people start flooding, you would expect that all the people, no matter what their background is, what's their educational level is, they will all flee the good and the bad. So you would expect that all the refugees are from the same community, you know. So if you met a refugee, sometime you would find that he's on a very high level of morals and he's a very nice person, and you would meet a refugee who maybe is not as good as the first refugee. Basically, you're meeting people from all sort of colors, all sort of ideas, and it's just a bad idea to generalize everything. You wouldn't say all those people are really bad or all these people are really good, but you would have your own idea about the situation that brought them over here. You would have a better background about why they fled their countries, left their own homes, families over there, and just came over here. The reasons might much vary, but I mean, like at the core, it's the same thing.
Yes.
And it's fun because when we went through the refugee process ourselves, we were in contact with other refugees from other countries, and we figured out that we didn't know anything about them. So my housemate was a guy from Eritrea, and I was shocked knowing all these things happening in Eritrea at the moment. And although I'm from the Middle East, I'm pretty aware of many political situations over the world, whether it's in the East or the West. I mean, some areas still shocks you that you know nothing about the situation over there. So Eritrea, for example, was a country that I didn't know anything of, but when I came in contact with the refugees from Eritrea, I found out how much lovely they are and how horrible their situation is. So it just gives you a wider perspective about the whole world and what's taking place in every part of it.
So that's interesting. So amongst the refugee community, there's lots of different types of people, but everyone has slightly different reasons, perhaps.
That's correct. Yes.
As someone living here, what would it take me to say, right, I have to leave Scotland? You know, so it's trying to get that understanding across that it's not something anyone does because they want to, but it's because they have to. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, like, the more you know, the more power you have, the more wiser your choices will be when you ever came across something to make a choice about. So being in a bubble, I would say, closed bubble, not knowing what's happening, and then just waiting for someone to come inside that bubble and let you know about the things, isn't the best option to face a world. I mean, like, look at the past 10 years, the whole world has changed. Everything was more complicated, and at the same time everything was made simple: communication, interaction with each other. So the whole world isn't the same old simple as it used to be, and now we're more interactive with each other. I like something that's been said by Martin Luther King. He said, injustice in any part of the world is a threat to justice all over the world, which basically translates into, you would think that if you are in your own bubble, you're in your own safe bubble, not giving attention to anything happening outside that bubble, you wouldn't be affected. But as time has proven, the whole world, I would say, in an Arabic expression, is just as small as a ball in the hand, and that's it. It's just a small ball we're living all in. So whatever happens in the Far East or in the Far West, we're all part of it, and somehow. Yeah. So better know what's happening. Better to have a bigger view, a better view to things, so that makes you know the world we're living in and interact with it properly.
I like that phrase you used, the whole world is a ball in your hand. I've not heard that before. Where does that come from?
Well, it's similar, like it's a small world. So maybe 10 years ago it didn't feel that small, but I was discussing that with an Australian friend of mine, and he was agreeing. I mean, like, he used to do some work in London, and he met a guy over there. And then he left to Philippines, maybe it was Thailand, I'm not sure, to one of these countries. And he was walking through the streets when he met the same guy. And I mean, like, can you believe it? We're 6 billions over this planet, and yet you can meet someone whom you met somewhere in a totally different country, in a total different situation. And 10 years from now, all this all this technology, all these websites, the Facebook, the Google, the YouTube, have made it much easier for us just to interact and affect each other. So we were speaking about the press and how they are affecting everyone, but if you looked at it further, I mean, like, the new generations are taking their information through persons now, rather than a single name of a brand, of a press or something. You would just find it online. You just have to look at the correct direction, and we're all interacted. Another thing is, like, there has been a theory. I mean, there is a mathematician who, I'm not sure if he was a mathematician but he put this theory that says, in odds, the most furthest two from each other in this world must be connected within 6-7 people or something. So I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, and you will get there within 6-7 people. And Facebook have done a study on that, depending on its huge database, and they found out that it's less than 6. Actually, it's 5 point something, and that means we're more connected than we think we are.
Wow.
Yes, it's lovely.
Dr. Ahmad Subeh, thanks so much for making time.
Thank you very much for your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Refugee Voices Scotland. This podcast would not be possible without the help of a special person, Talat Haque from the Al Care Foundation in Glasgow. The Al Care Foundation is a UK-based international NGO providing humanitarian support, international development, emergency aid and disaster relief in some of the world's most deprived areas. It also tackles issues such as unemployment, education, women's empowerment and domestic violence. The Glasgow office of Al Care Foundation is in Victoria Road, right across the road from the Milk Cafe, which was featured in episode 2 of this podcast. Find out how you can support the Al Care Foundation by visiting their website at www.alcare.org, and that's spelled ALKHAIR.org. Follow them on Twitter at AKF_social, that's capital A, capital K, capital F, underscore capital S, OCIAL. Again, huge thanks to Dr. Subeh, Talat Haque and the team in the Glasgow office of the Al Care Foundation for making this interview possible. All website, Facebook and blog details are on our show notes page on the Refugee Voices Scotland website, which is refugeevoicesscotland.com. And if you have a refugee story or project and you want to be featured in a future podcast, get in touch with us through Twitter at RefVoicesScot, find us on Facebook, or by emailing us on refugeevoicesscotland@gmail.com. And thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.